Welcome to another illuminating episode of Sacred Harmony, where today we explore the profound intersection of science, soul memory, and spiritual transformation with the extraordinary Craig Meriwether. As a clinical hypnotherapist, medical hypnosis specialist, and the mind behind Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, Craig has dedicated over a decade to guiding people through past lives, the spirit world, and the subtle realms of higher guidance. His work bridges therapeutic depth and mystical exploration, making today's conversation both expansive and grounded. Welcome to the show, Craig. It's such an honor to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me on. I've been looking forward to this for a while. So yeah, ready to dive in.
So, Craig, when you guide someone into a past life regression, what is the deeper intention behind uncovering those memories?
The deeper intention is the healing one can accomplish from doing a past life regression. Uh, you know, we're here to learn, we're here to grow, we're here to develop as souls. And this isn't just my hope and wish. That's what we're doing. A lot of evidence out there, especially uh, if you want to look at the Michael Newton books, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls, when he worked with thousands, and they're still working with the Michael Newton Institute. They just put out a book a few years ago of new research, and they've been researching almost 60 years now. Uh, Tens of thousands of people who have been having similar experiences of what it is to be a soul as they move them up into that soul state, kind of remembering being a soul before coming to earth. And it the consistent is the consistent experience is that we're here on earth as a learning experience to learn as souls, to grow, sort of like this is earth school, and to learn and grow to be better souls, better spirits, I guess. And as we move through these healing experiences, we may have experiences here on earth that are hurtful, that cause pain. Maybe it doesn't always go well. It's just like maybe in school, if you don't do well in the class, you have to repeat the class. If you're in university and you're doing the chemistry class and it doesn't go so well, you have to repeat the class. Well, maybe we have to repeat certain lessons here on earth, and maybe we bring with us certain hurt and pain. The well, you certainly can explore past lives for insights and discovery and for fun is certainly a fascinating experience. The deeper element is to heal and to grow as humans.
Hmm. Yes, absolutely. And have you noticed certain themes or emotional patterns that tend to repeat across different timelines?
Yeah, it was different between you know, everybody's a little different. We're all learning a little bit differently, but certainly aspects around love, learning how to move in relationships with love and unconditional love. We may have had experiences in certain lives, maybe even this life, where there are conditions on love, and that may cause maybe certain imprints that we take into another life. And so while everybody has different experiences, of course, and maybe we're all here to learn in somewhat of a little bit of a different way. Yeah, the bigger aspects of love and compassion and empathy are ones you see through the work that people are doing here on earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that continuity across lives paints such and that continuity across lives paints such a compelling picture of how the soul learns and evolves.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's not that we have done this once or twice or 10 times. We may have been doing this hundreds and hundreds of times already.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And you work with clients on both clinical issues and spiritual healing. How do you balance the scientific framework of hypnotherapy with the mystical side of soul exploration?
Well, there's all sorts of scientific evidence for the more spiritual side of things nowadays. Certainly, there's lots of evidence to show that consciousness is non-local, meaning that consciousness is not housed within this skull of ours, within the brain even, but the brain is more of a receiver and transmitter. And the information we bring in, whether, remembering when you were a little kid, or remembering, last year at work, something happened, bringing in this information and of just memories, let alone more spiritual experiences, is not being created by the brain itself or those memories housed within the brain, but we're pulling it in as if the brain is an antenna. And there's lots of evidence to suggest this. And, not only with the different theories of reality, whether it's a computer simulation or this is the multiverse or it's a holographic universe, we also have the evidence of extraordinary experiences people have, like remote viewing. And even, Soviet Union back in the day, and certainly the United States government spent millions and millions of dollars and decades of research looking into things like remote viewing and ESP because they are having successful results in that research. And remote viewing, just really quickly, because that's a whole probably 10-hour podcast right there. But remote viewing is the ability for somebody's consciousness to see a location maybe on the other side of the world. And so this therefore goes once again to consciousness being non-local, meaning it's not housed within the skull or the brain. And so people have certain skills and talents in moving their consciousness to other places, even including underground bunkers. That's how the CIA, when they were working with some people at Stanford, that was one of the big first experiments. They accidentally, two remote viewers, when they're putting the project together, accidentally remote viewed a secret underground military bunker of the United States. And so that's what started the program. It's like, okay, well, if they can do this kind of stuff and see files with top secret names and of these files and name tags of the officers who were at this underground bunker, and it turned out to be true, then what else could happen? And what was fascinating about this research is these remote viewers were also able to look into the future and look into the past. And so, that, let alone, the research of Michael Newton and the Michael Newton Institute of the last, whatever, 55, 60 years, the research that has gone on with like Brian Weiss, the book I just wrote, Past Lives Guidebook, has a lot of the research from time and consciousness and memory that after, you read all this information, you put it all together, really the only conclusion you can come to is that we're coming here multiple times for learning and growth and have these experiences again and again. And there's really little to no evidence to suggest this is just kind of one and done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And do you find that one perspective often validates or strengthens the other?
Yeah, it's an interesting dance because you would think that maybe they would kind of repel each other, maybe, or they don't go together. But that even in the remote viewing experience that they were having, and I'm guessing they're still doing it. They say they closed down the program, but I'm guessing they're still doing it if it was successful. That they're in this reality of Earth. They're human beings going home to families and getting in their cars and getting stuck in rush hour traffic and all that. They're having the human experience, and yet they can go to a work, so to speak, as a remote viewer. They can go and then have these extraordinary experiences of moving their consciousness not only across the earth, but there was one experiment they did when was it the Viking satellites that went past Saturn back in the early 70s? And no, not Saturn. I'm sorry, Neptune. They were going to go past Neptune, and we didn't have much information about Neptune that up close. They actually had one of the remote viewers view Neptune and get information. Oh, not Neptune. I'm so sorry, Jupiter. It was Jupiter. Uh, had the remote viewer view Jupiter before the satellite flew by and got extraordinarily detailed information about Jupiter that was then confirmed by the satellite when it flew by back in whenever that was, 1974. And so, and again, and then he, went home for the day and went back to his family and then watched TV or, read a book or whatever. So we can have these extraordinarily plain experiences of being here on earth. And yet also we are spirit, we are souls. And why not be able to tap into this kind of higher self of ours? I think we can do both. And that's probably what we're here to experience is maybe tapping into these more powerful aspects of ourselves while we're having this human experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that blend creates a space where logic and intuition can coexist, which is rare and incredibly impactful.
Yeah, and again, I think the big reasoning behind this work is the healing that can happen. And as we heal, maybe the connections or, that we may have these past lives, maybe, resolve some issues or create even deeper healing that is only going to affect how we grow and learn and how we expand ourselves in this life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And when someone encounters trauma or fear during regression, what helps them move from re experiencing the pain to truly transforming it?
Well, sometimes just experiencing and seeing that there is reasoning behind maybe the anxiety they're feeling, the anger. A lot of times people come to this work, they've done talk therapy for years, or they've done some other kind of therapies for a long time, and nothing has resolved the issue, nothing has helped. They still feel the anxiety, or they still feel the anger, or the resentment, or the regret, or whatever it is, the despair. And sometimes it's by experiencing, it's not that you have to relive it, it's sort of like a memory. And just like you can have a memory of what you had for lunch yesterday, or that issue at work last month, or back in school when you're, 12 years old or being a little kid. These are memories. It's not like you go back there and you're a little kid again, or you're back being 12 years old, or you're at work 6 months ago, and then you don't get trapped there. You're just having a memory. Well, all we do with past life regression is we just go a little bit further and have a memory of another life. So it's sort of like you're in this life, we're swimming around in the shallow end of the pool, and we can have memories of yesterday and last month and a year ago and 10 years ago and being a little kid. Well, all we're doing is we're going to swim over to the deep end of the pool. It's the same pool. We're just going to swim over to the deep end and get, access information from a past life. And sometimes that can be enough, just understanding where this feeling is coming from can bring relief. But we always get to the end of that past life, what is causing the end of that life, whether it's old age or illness or injury or something else. And then you move into that spirit form. You remember being just a soul out of a human body. You move up into that soul world. Again, we focused a lot on the work of Michael Newton and his what he talks about and writes about in his books, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls, and other people's experience of soul life. And so you have this experience of soul life, and that's where the deep healing can happen. Up there in soul world, where you can, remove the cords, you remove the attachments of that past life. And whether you're there with your spirit guide, or you're there with other healing beings, or you're there reuniting with your soul family, your soul group, your soul mates, that's where the resolution really happens and the healing can really happen.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I absolutely agree. And is there a specific moment when you can tell a client has shifted from resistance into release?
Yeah, when we go to the healing place, I mean, sometimes you'll notice it when they're having the past life memories, because we're having a conversation. When you're doing group work, maybe you're working, like at a retreat or a workshop, and there are 10 people, 20 people. I was just at a Brian Weiss workshop last summer, and there was 700 people there. It was quite extraordinary. Uh, Obviously that's going to be a more generalized kind of experience, but when you're working with somebody one on one, you're actually having a conversation back and forth. And even though they're in this trance state and they're in this altered state of consciousness, having this experience of this past life, they can talk to you about it and kind of give you an explanation of what they're experiencing, what the scene they're having a memory of is all about. And you can, through what they're saying and just through body language, you can see the release or the relief or the resolve that is happening. But oftentimes it's up there in that spirit realm that the release happens, and you can see it with them. That often can be more of a private experience, having that deep healing, but you can see it in their body language. The muscles relax a little bit, facial muscles relax a little bit. You can hear it in their voice afterwards when they finally say they're complete. And certainly after the fact, when we're the past life regression, the spirit world exploration is over, and you're talking with them afterwards, and you can hear it in their voice, and they'll tell you, yeah, I released this, I released that, I pulled out these cords, and it was, and they'll actually tell you that the healing that got accomplished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those subtle emotional breakthroughs often become the turning point people remember for years.
Oh yeah, 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 and this doesn't end once the session ends. The insights and the discovery and even the healing continues, because there's a lot of information people are pulling in, and uh, the insights will continue to come in the days, weeks, and months afterwards. And so there's still more to learn. It's sort of like you're pulling in all this kind of 5D information into a 3D brain, and it may take some time for the brain to kind of translate, if you will, all that information. It's sort of like you're bringing in all this digital information into an analog equipment of the brain, and so it may take, a few days even to process some of that information. So you get even more information in the days and weeks later.
Mm-hmm. Yes, totally. And you also guide individuals into the spirit world and higher realms. What has surprised you most about the wisdom people access there?
The the most interesting one was there's all sorts of different places people can access. Again, the best description of it is Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. Um, but one place that people can access is what they've kind of termed the spiritual library. And to some people, it shows up as like one of those old libraries with the big heavy wooden desks and big ladders that go up to 3 stories to all these books, or maybe it's more modern looking. And again, I don't think there's actual library with books there. I think it's just a construct of this 3D brain that has to translate information into something we can kind of experience and understand in this realm of earth of ours. And so they call it a spiritual library because it kind of looks like a library, however that works with them. And so one person just showed up at, went to the spiritual library because I was just asked, where do you need to go next? And what I found fascinating, one, is she hadn't read any of the Michael Newton books, and we hadn't talked about anything about like the spiritual library. And so she didn't really know about it. She's just like, oh, I guess I seem to be in some sort of library, which I thought was extraordinary because it's kind of follows the Michael Newton information. People have similar experiences of the soul world, even though they don't know each other, they haven't read the information or anything. Well, she saw a book on the big table, and she went over to look at this book, and she described how it was ornately, it was kind of a leather bound book, but it was ornately kind of designed, and with and carbines, but like with leather work. And she described the design on the cover of the book, and then she opened it, and it was detailed descriptions of her lives on different worlds. So not just planet Earth, but lives on other planets, other worlds, other dimensions, maybe. And it was quite extraordinary because again, it wasn't like set up. It wasn't like I preloaded that she was going to have that experience. She just came to that experience on her own. And another one that was quite extraordinary is, and I described this one in my book, the Past Lives Guidebook. I actually start the book off in the introduction with this is somebody healed 20 years of chronic hip pain with a past life regression and moving up in the spirit world. And the past life that we're exploring, that she was exploring, had nothing to do with hip pain. I didn't even know she had hip pain. It was just something she dealt with. It was hip pain. She'd been to the doctor. She'd been to a physical therapist. She'd tried all sorts of things that didn't work, and she was just something she lived with. She just lived with hip pain. Didn't tell me about it. We weren't working on it. But in the healing space, as she was healing all the other issues around the past life she had experienced, she found like there's this big cord on her hip, and she tried to pull it out and couldn't. And she had her spirit guide try to help her pull it out and couldn't do it either. And so she had other spiritual beings that were there, spirit beings that were there in the healing place, kind of did one of those tug of war kind of things and help pull out that plug. And she didn't tell me this. She just did it on her own as she's having her private moment in the healing space and took some time. She was having that experience for 10, 15 minutes. And she told me this a couple of days later. I reach out to people, say, "How you doing? Just want to check in to see if you had any questions or love to hear more about your experience." He said, "Yeah, 20 years of hip pain is totally gone because I pulled that cord out of my hip." And so the experiences people have can be quite extraordinary. And I would keep using that word, but I don't know that there's any other way to say it other than that this is quite an extraordinary experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's quite amazing. And have you ever witnessed a piece of guidance so profound that it changed the way you view your own work?
Yeah, I mean, certainly those two experiences kind of really changed how I view the work because you see obviously people have mindset issues or they're dealing with some anxiety or anger or regret or something, and you see that shift, and they talk about it afterwards after they come out of the experience, and they talk about it how they shift, they felt the shift, and of course emotional resolution to hurt and pain and things like that. Again, quite extraordinary, but that I think that physical healing that she told me about, again, something I didn't know she was doing and didn't know had happened until a few days after the actual session, really shifted my perception of, okay, so this can be not just, you know, mindset issues and emotional issues and just discovery and insights for wisdom and knowledge, but there can actually be straight physical healing that happens too. And now that's not everybody's story, of course, but um it again, it can be, an amazing experience, in all sorts of different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and insights like that remind us how vast and interconnected these unseen dimensions really are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and you're still, it's not that we have all the answers and we know, certainly there's lots of people way smarter than me who, argue about whether it's the holographic universe or it's more of a computer simulation or it's more of the multiverse or something else. But, there certainly seems to be something else going on, uh, with life and the universe and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Greg, thank you for offering such depth, clarity, and spiritual richness to today's conversation. And for everyone listening, let this episode be a reminder that healing isn't confined to the present moment. It extends across lifetimes, experiences, and the invisible threads that shape who we are. If this dialogue resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on the patterns, intuitions, and emotions that keep turning your life. They may be the very clues guiding you towards your next breakthrough.